ladies. Some of you, as I said before, and you didn't hear me, some of you I've met before, and some of you I'm looking forward to meeting in the future. Now, Evelyn's asked me to run this session today on men's style. So there was a survey sent out, so I thought the easiest way to run this session was probably to go through the responses and just talk to you about the responses that we got to the Survey Monkey. So the first question was, do you work with male clients, yes or no? And we've got obviously a variety of yeses and nos. I would like to work with more men, and I think that's good. As Evelyn will tell you, and she's going to jump in and out of this with me too, because she has a lot of male clients, as I think Emma does too. They are so easy to work with. You know, people, we get so caught up thinking they're going to be, yes, there's things that we do differently. Yes, but they are the easiest clients because they actually do what you tell them to do. They like the rules, they like to be told what to do, and they follow it to the nth degree. So they're very good, and you tell them to throw things out, they'll get rid of them. You tell them that they need to wear this with this, that's exactly what they'll do. So from that point of view, they're very easy to have as clients. So yes, you'd like, if someone would like to work with more clients, male clients, excellent. Question 2 was, why have you not included your services in your services, or included rather men in your services? I always thought I'd just work with women. Well, that's how I started off too. And I think most of us think that it is more of a women's industry, but there are a lot of men out there that need help. And most of my male clients, in fact, the majority of them are all senior executives, CEOs of business. And it's as important for them to be sending out the right messages by the way that they dress and present themselves as it is for women. No different. They still need to be sending out know what the messages are that they're sending out, and why, and what they can be doing to improve that image and that message. So just one quick one, I got called in, not through one of my main clients, but by one of the big legal firms in Collins Street a couple of years ago now, to work with one of their top lawyers. They wanted to make him a partner. The only reason they wouldn't make him a partner was the way that he dressed. And so they said, would I come in and speak to him? They'd run other image consultants, and they had just said, no, we don't deal with men. I got the job, so off I went. This guy was probably what you would think would be a typical legal person. He didn't have time for me, he was too busy, it wasn't important, it was all superfluous. So that was okay. So he said, I haven't really got time, let's just meet for coffee and you just tell me what to do. I said, okay, fine. So we went and met in a coffee shop and sat down, and he said, okay, I just need you to tell me what I have to do, and that's what I'll go and do, and that's it. And I said, no, that's not how this works. Let me tell you why it's important. Let me tell you the messages that I'm already picking up that you're sending out. And let me tell you what you need to change and how we can change some of those things. So I did. So in 10 minutes, I just went through a couple of things and gave him a couple of home truths in there. Anyway, he sat back on his haunches and he said, I've done this wrong. I've been doing this wrong. He said, right, you need to come back to the office with me. We need to sit down and we need to pencil time into my diary, because I had no concept of this. And we did. And we just, so I had to change his mindset as well as his wardrobe, but that was okay. And he's become a really loyal client through that. The other thing that I'd just like to mention at this point too, is that I get a lot of my female clients from my male clients, because I'm being sent these male clients through these organisations. They're going home to their wives and saying, oh, look what I've got. I've got this colour swatch. This is how I'm going to put things together. These are the words that I'm dressing for, rah, rah, rah. And then they ring and they'll say, oh, my wife really wants to see you. see women? Do you have women clients? Because they, of course, think that they're the only one I've got, and I only have met male clients. I said, no, I have female clients as well, so more than happy to take that on board. So I've actually got a lot of female clients through my male clients. So I guess what I'm trying to say to you is that if you just do a blanket no, you're potentially chopping off a large income stream. So just be open to doing it and having male clients, because they are a lot of fun. Do you feel you have sufficient training to work confidently with men if you chose to add this into your service offering? And 100% of the people that replied to that survey said no. And so maybe that's the thing that's holding you back. So maybe I'll jump onto you, Evelyn, if that's okay, because Evelyn does have, or do you want to do it at the end? She does have style training for men that is specific for men. So maybe if that's the thing that's holding you back, is that you feel you need that extra training, well, we can certainly offer that service to you.
So I might just make a comment around that, because although you feel that you may not have the training to work with men, you may not want to anyway. So that's absolutely fine. I came to working with men almost by default, and now I find that about 60 to 65% of my clients are men. And like Suzanne said, they are really easy to work with. But if you are interested in working with men, just have a think about that. And if there's any, we want to cover off some of the questions that might have been a concern. That's coming up next. But if you'd like to talk to us, then certainly contact.
So, which leads us perfectly into the next question. Did you have specific concerns about working with men? If so, what are they? So the first one was, I don't want to go to their home, therefore, unless it's a virtual consultation, I can't look inside their wardrobe. And which plays exactly into what Evelyn was saying. And I must say, I was probably a bit cautious in the beginning too, thinking, oh, crikey, that's a bit weird going into a man's home and a man's wardrobe. If I'm maintaining a professional standard and I'm keeping everything at arm's length and acting in a professional manner, why should I be any different from any other person going in there and doing a job? And he actually came to my home. And you will also know when you've had female clients that you talk to on the phone and you just don't get it, you just don't have that connection. I should not have probably taken him on as a client, but I have never been made to feel uncomfortable in a guy's house. And the last one I did recently, just before we went into lockdown, I went and did his wardrobe. Well, that was a bit of a cracker because I've penciled in an hour and a half to 2 hours and charged him to do this wardrobe consultation. Well, I reckon him making me the coffee took longer than it took for me to look in his wardrobe. But it was so bad. And he said to me, I'll clean this out for you. I've had a colour. I said, you didn't colour deep enough. And we had all these style words. We had all the words, the messages that he wanted to send out. I don't necessarily call them style words, but he had all these words. And so I picked up these shoes and I'm like, now tell me about these. So these fit in with these words that you've given me. And he started laughing. He said, well, I'm not going to have any shoes left if we get rid of them. I said, okay, well, that's okay because they're going. I said, that's going to be the first thing we're putting on our shopping list. And he said, but I've got really difficult feet. I said, yeah, okay, you might have difficult feet, but I can see you've got R.M. Williams boots. So let's go there because they also do a casual shoe as well, sneaker. Let's go there and do that, but you cannot have these. So I think I was out of the wardrobe in about 10, 15 minutes max. Now I charged him all the time. Anyway, I said to him, there's no point me staying here because he doesn't want to chat with me. They're not interested in the chit chat, as everyone said. There's no point me staying there. So I said, okay, what we're going to do is I'm going to go and do some more research now that I've seen your wardrobe. I'm going home to do more research because we actually need to do more shopping than I initially thought we did. So rather than spend this next hour sitting here with you, I'm going to spend it at home on my computer doing research so that when we go shopping, it's going to be really effectual. So we did. We went shopping. He spent close to $10,000. And I would never have picked him for spending that sort of money. But he was so invested in this process. And we shopped our little legs off. And at the very end of it, he said, and he was married, had kids, all the rest of it. He said, I just really want to give you a kiss, but I know it's really inappropriate. But he said, you've just changed my life. He said, you've just changed my whole world and how I feel going into this new role. Knowing current men's style and trends, what my male clients, I'm not trying to make them trendy. I'm not trying to make them fashion plates. I'm just trying to make them look current. And I'm trying to make them fit their words, the messages that they want to send out. And men, and I think even and those girls here that do have male clients will agree that men more than women need their clothes to come with a use by date. And I don't talk about that, or this one's use by date, it's well gone. And my husband's one of these. He doesn't need anything, he doesn't like anything, and by the time it's time to say goodbye, it's the most favourite, most loved thing in his wardrobe. And I have to prize it away from him. My male clients can be exactly the same. They absolutely love this suit. Oh, this is their lucky shirt. Oh, these shoes, they've worn them, you know. And I'm like, yeah, I can see you've worn them for years. That's fantastic. Right, time to say goodbye. Kick them to the curb. And you can joke with them about that sort of stuff. They love it. So no, time to say goodbye, off you go. Use by date's gone. So they need that constant update, which is great for us because we need to constantly be taking them shopping, constantly being in their wardrobes and shopping and keeping them looking current rather than trendy.
Just on that, men, when they're willing, they want a woman's opinion. They will value that because they also want to look attractive to women, regardless of whether they've got the girlfriend, the lover, the wife, whatever it is, but they do want to look attractive. And right from the start, they have an advantage over women because women are always worried about that little lump, that little bump, that little bit of, cellulite. Men already think they look like Brad Pitt. They just want to look even better. Men are fun to work with because when they're willing to open up that wallet of theirs, when they're ready to buy, they will buy. A woman will fight you. In other words, I'm going to wait for the sale. Oh, look, I really just think it's a bit over my budget. Oh, I'm not sure. And she's thinking of the kids. She should be spending the money on the kids. The men, when they're ready to buy, they will buy because they're looking at themselves in a way that they've never, ever seen themselves look before. And this increased level of self-esteem and confidence, they're on a high and they want more of it. So when you get a male client, he's your client for life. And harking back to what Brenda Kinsell said, that you do keep your clients for life. They are loyal clients. They will tell their wives, they will tell, their girlfriends or their daughters, and they're more likely to tell other men. I've got my own personal stylist looking after me because the guys, their friends will notice. They will see a difference. Oh, God, mate, what do you do? Guys are more likely to say, no, I've got a stylist, and willing to share your name around as well. Men are, I swear, they are just absolutely brilliant to work with.
And Evelyn's right. That's one of the big difference I've found between my male and my female clients. If I've got a woman in the changing room and she's trying on pants and they don't fit, what does that woman say to you? I need to lose weight. I've eaten too many Easter eggs. Now it's going to be I was in ISO for too long, hoeing down. We blame ourselves because those pants don't fit. If I've got a male in the changing room and the pants are too small, he will say to me, there's something wrong with these pants because they don't fit me. Because there's nothing wrong with him, he's perfect. He's got it all together, it's the fault of the pants. So that's something as women that we can take away from them as well is that we blame ourselves, they blame the clothes. So in some respects, they've got a much healthier attitude. But what Evelyn just touched on then was measurements. And to be honest, I've always been a measurer, but I'm now no longer a measurer. I don't measure men or women. And that's something that's come through on a couple of responses from different people, is that they feel very uneasy about measuring a man. And so I think Evelyn and I had a chat about this last night, and Em and I have spoken, we've all spoken about this, the three of us. And I think we're going to run a session, you jump in, Evelyn, about measuring versus not measuring. Because I find it much freer and much easier just not to measure. And it's much less confronting to your client, whether it's a male or a female. Because let's face it, most females don't really want you wrapping a tape measure around them either. So regardless of whether they're male or female, I don't measure.
With measuring, why I don't measure and my history around measuring, with males, you don't have to worry about measuring, because when you take them to a store, and the store that you choose for them, and not all stores are going to be right for each one of your clients, once you get there, you've never had to measure, because they are the ones that do all the work for you, and you're the one that's directing the colour and the style of jacket and, you know, what clothes they actually know, because you've already been in their wardrobe, so you already know what they need. So you're directing the people that run the store, looking after the measurements and the proper fit. That is something you don't have to worry about. Emma's got something to say about this as well. Emma.
I just want to add in there, I think that's particularly important for male clients who, compared to women, are much more concerned about status and the messages that status sends. So you don't want to be the little minion running around measuring things. You want to maintain your expert status, and you want to be the one directing the store assistant. Right, you need to do this, you need to bring that in, we want to have a look at this and that and the other, and he will respect you a whole lot more for that. You really need to maintain that expert status. It's a power and status thing, which is very, very different from men to women, and women want that camaraderie and we're in it together and, you know, I'm going to help you and so on. Men want that I've paid an expert and she's guiding me with her expertise.
Because it is true. You're the one that's been in the wardrobe. You know what can be saved and what can't be saved, what the priority list is. You also know a little bit about their, you know, what their outcome is and what they want. Do they want more money, more power, more romance? You already know all that. The store manager doesn't necessarily know all that. And so guys go in and say, look, I need a suit. And they'll throw on the first suit that's a standard cut and work it from there. You already know what suit to ask for and what's going to work best. And the amount of times, and I'm sure it's the same for Emma and Suzanne, and for some of you that do work with men, that you're the one that says, I want the charcoal, something that's a little bit darker. And so you're directing them, and your client, you will notice that they're constantly looking at the guy, looking at the clothes, then looking at you, looking at the guy, looking at the clothes, looking at you for approval, because you're it for them. They're paying you and they trust you.
Exactly. You are the expert. And this client I just had recently that spent just under the $10,000, but he did exactly that, kept looking at me, but I kept explaining to him too why things work. This is working on you because of the colouring. This works on you because of, and you just go back to the same way you would speak to a female client, because, and this guy was quite poorly. So see, this line is very slimming on you, blah, blah, blah. And in the end, the guy that was the salesman turned around and said to me, you're amazing. You really know your stuff. I've never had anyone come in here and explain stuff like this. Anyway, moving right along. Question number 5. What do you need to gain the confidence to start working with men? So we've had a few responses to that. The first one, a well thought out plan on how I will work with the male client and what I would offer and how I would put a package together for my male client. So here I say, okay, I don't have, and even for my female clients, I don't have a plan that they all do. I say to them, I need to speak to every client. So I don't have prices on my website. I don't have anything. If I get emails, I need to speak to them because I need to know. I can't just give them a price to do something when I don't know what the outcome is that they want, what they're reading, all of those things. So I do exactly the same thing with a male. And I will say, okay, now just talk to me. What do we need? What do you do? And I go through, and then I will say to him, I'm going to tailor something specifically for you. Well, they love that. They love that it's just for them. And I always do colour. We're going to have the style book, and that will go through step by step. So if you're worried that you're going to forget to tell him something, if you're worried about whatever, it's going to be all covered in the book that Evelyn and Em and I are putting out. That's all going to be covered in that. To know more about male fashion trends and basics. So again, that's where you can pick up some training and things. But there are some really good websites that I do quite like, and I don't know if you girls have got any, but I love Fashion Beans. Does anyone look at them? So it's like a blog, and it goes through a lot of stuff to do with men's fashion, and it's Fashion Beans as in beans that you eat, B-E-A-N-S. So there's Fashion Beans, there's GQ magazine, there's all sorts of things that you can pick up that will show you trends and things. Some guidelines on how to conduct initial styling consultation and more knowledge about their common concerns. So I don't know if you ladies want to jump on here and talk about your initial styling consultation, but mine starts exactly, it's so similar to the women's one in that I sit down and I talk about what's the outcome. And often because they've come to me through corporate organisations, I know why they've been sent. And if they've been sent and they're an unwilling participant, well, then I have to be mindful that I've got to get them over to me very quickly, my way of thinking and seeing the value in it. But assuming that they're already happy to be there, it's the same thing. What's the outcome? Make them do this, noughts and crosses, and they're in the middle. And then I say to them, okay, now, I want you just to sit quietly and think about it. You've been to that job interview. It was a fantastic success. You absolutely loved them. They loved you. It was fantastic. They pretty much told you you've got the job. Name your price. You could not have been more successful. You've now left the building and they're talking amongst themselves. What are the words that they're using to describe you? So I'll say, now you fill in those words around each of those squares. So depending on what that job interview is, and it works for women too, and they will tell me the words. So it will be professional. If they're in a creative industry, it might be creative, so they'll come up with all of these words. It's perfect. So that gives me then the beginning of where I go from that initial style consultation. I've got words and I know the outcome that they want from this initial shopping and wardrobe and all the rest of it. And then I'll put a plan in to action from that.
That's great.
What about you, Annie?
I love that model. I think that's great. I do it in a different way. However, it still comes out with the same thing, that this is how they want others to perceive them. This is what they think people see, and also how I want that link to how they see themselves as well. Because if there is anything at all that's not matching, so their identity and the image or the message they want to send out, if there's anything at all that's not working there, then that gives me the element that I've actually got to work on as well. And it's all about questioning. I will also give them what people are likely to see as well, based on what I'm noticing. So that when somebody's sitting in front of me, and it's quite amazing how intuitive we are, because we're picking up on little nuances around facial expressions and body language, and you can pretty much nail it as far as what other people must be noticing about them, because that's what I would be seeing. And I give them that feedback. I'll just, you know, if they've got a few words that they've described as to how they want others to see them as, and I might agree with some of them, but I'll say, now tell me a little bit about that one, because that could be the very word they've written down as the one that they want to be more of. It might be that. So, and that's what I'm not noticing with them already. I might say, well, look, tell me, I'm noticing, for instance, now, somebody that just gets on with the job, works in the background, does a fabulous job, but doesn't get the accolades that they deserve because they're not putting their hand up and claiming it. I'm just saying, now, why are you not putting your hand up? This is what I'm feeling about you. How true is that? And they get a shock to know that it's almost like I've jumped into their head, and they think, well, how did you know that? I said, well, I don't know anyone else. You're sitting in front of me. I know nobody that you know. Nobody's told me anything about you. This is what the message is that you're sending out. So if you're the transmitter and you want all these receivers, you know, other people, to pick up the correct message, then you've got visual noise or behavioral noise or even verbal noise going on that is not supporting you. In other words, they're getting, the transmission has been interrupted. And so we've got to work on that. Yeah, but I love that model, Suzanne. That's really great. That also gets you to that point where you can discuss those things. That's great.
I do the same thing. I want to find out what their objectives are so that I know whether we can meet them. I want to know how they're trying to present and project themselves and where they're sitting in their career and their personal life, what's going on, what are the challenges or the obstacles. I also try and extract words that might describe their style, but I find sometimes they can have a bit of a challenge getting into that. So one of the ways I've found that's a good way to kind of break the ice on that is I say to them, okay, so tell me, you're a car. What kind of car are you? What, you know, what? They say, oh, well, I'm an E-type Jag. And if that matches with what I can see, I go, yeah, right. So that tells me about them. He's you know, stylish, elegant, powerful, but not overt or in your face. Or someone might say, you know, I'm a Toyota Hilux. I get in there, I get things done, you know, I'm no fuss, but, you know, I'm reliable. And that kind of gets them talking about that. And then I can move a layer deeper and say one of two things. If I see a complete disconnect, I might say, that sounds a little bit aspirational, like that's what you want to be, but that's not what I'm picking up right now. Or if that kind of fits with them, I might say, so tell me what qualities you like about that car. What is it about it that you would make you describe yourself or link with that? So then I'm kind of working around it. I'm getting the same result, but I'm working around it from a slightly different way.
The more that you do it, you will develop your own styles. You work out your own way that works for you. But I'm more than happy for you to use mine. In fact, that came from Brenda. Question 6 was, what resources do you currently use? So GQ magazines come up here, Forbes magazine, and the shoppers at malls. Someone put in there. I use Pinterest. So again, we can use Pinterest again here. It's a really good resource. And I loved this one. So the person that had the first one and said I would only be comfortable doing things virtually, people are doing consultations with males and just doing them virtually, because this person's responded and said I use Pinterest and I do online shopping for them. And they really love it. Nordstrom here in America has half-yearly sales, and I create a wish list and they buy the items. Can't complain too much. So sometimes the people closest to us are not going to necessarily be the ones that are going to give you a true reflection of what a male client might be like. Does that make sense? Because they're going to be the ones that go, oh God, what are you putting in that for? I don't even like that. Whereas your male client might go, oh, okay, yeah, I'll give it they will give it a go. They will put things on. And you will see straight away, looking at them, they start to preen themselves. Oh, yes, I really like that. Very good with themselves. So, yeah, I just wanted to say that. So, practice on people definitely, but don't take your husband's, your brother's reaction maybe as gospel on how all men will react, because it's definitely not the way it is.
Just on that one too, with men, they do like to be challenged. Once you start working with men, I can promise you this, you start looking at men as, you know, future or potential clients, because you're already starting to do that whole makeover thing. You can't help yourself. Once you learn the principles around working with men, it's just then that becomes part of your whole thinking process. When you're meeting people, you're already doing it with women anyway. I'm sure you are. When you see a woman, you're thinking, oh yeah, that works, but oh my God, I would change that up, I would change that up. You'll start doing that with men as well. Whereas at the moment, they're probably invisible. But the one thing I love to do is to really challenge my male clients. And if I get a male client where the wife or the girlfriend or the boss even of the company they work for has said to me, we need him changed up because, you know, we can't give him that promotion, we want him to travel, whatever that is. And so you've got a challenge already because he's not spending money on clothes. However, when you sell the benefits, you've got to find out what really makes them tick. Is it the saving of money because it's going on the mortgage, or is it sending the kids to private school, right? Or is it not wanting to upset the wife because whenever she can drag him into the stores, she's the one that does the shopping, you know? So you've got to find that it's a sweet spot. And when you find it, that's when the wallets will open. Seriously. Just thinking very, very quickly about an experience, and it was a highlight of my experiences with working with men. This man has not spent money. And when I saw him, he was an apparition of the circa 1976 Gold Coast. It was terrible. The crimpling suit, the flared pants, the wide lapels, and I swear he had big hair. The company he was working for was a major technical company, and he was their best and most talented technical manager they had. They didn't want to lose him. Do you know what? I'd be curious to find out, and I love asking this question, where would you take him first? Since he doesn't buy clothes, would you take him to the cheaper end of town and slowly massage him into trying to look better than he does? Do you take him middle road because you really feel that's about the level he's going to go to? You're going to have to push him there because he's going to be spending $900 on a man's suit and maybe on sale, and that's the middle ground. In Australia, I don't know about anywhere else, but an average man's suit, a good one, is anything between $900 and $1,200. Or are you going to take him the top end of town, and you know, where it could be Giorgio Armani, and the suits start at about $3,500. So that was always a quandary for me until I met this guy. And you know what? Sometimes you need to shake someone's cage so thoroughly that it just absolutely, it's a whole pattern interrupt you're about to have them experience. And this one particular client, this is the circa 1976 Gold Coast man, right? I took him to Giorgio Armani. Now, in the back of my mind, I know he's not going to spend 1 cent there. I rang my friends at Giorgio Armani and I said, okay, you're going to have some fun, but you've got to remain absolutely professional, no sniggering, no nothing. Are you prepared to see somebody that might be a client one day? They said, yes, bring him in. So the hair had to be done first. See, sometimes you've got to get things done first before you start getting them to try on clothes, because the clothes are going to look ridiculous if the hair looks ridiculous. So you're going to get the hair done. Then you've got to get the shoes. So top to tail, you've got to get both of those ends right. So the shoes have got to be right. So you get the shoes and then you take him shopping. And Suzanne, I don't know if that's how you work, but I know that if they don't have shoes and they're walking around in their socks with the toes out, they're not going to look any good in a suit, a brand new suit. So the shoes and the hair are top priority for me if they need it. And then I took back to my client, took him to Giorgio Armani. Now, that was an experience with him. He had no idea he was in rarefied atmosphere. You know, it was like a cathedral. And of course, he is ignorant of all of this. So that was a good thing because he's not questioning anything. So we get him into the suit and he said, I can't believe this. It's like cobwebs. I can't even feel it on my body. You know, it was just so beautiful. And your strategy is to give your client an experience they've never had before, never thought of before. And you have now set a new bar for them, but they haven't realized it yet. And so when I got him out of there, and he was reluctant to leave because he wanted to know the price of the suit, but I really didn't want him fainting on the floor. So of course I had to get him out. Now, where do you think I can take him now? Without any question at all. I can take him to Hugo Boss, or I can take him to, Ted Baker. I can take him anywhere now at that mid-range. He is not going to complain because I've just told him that suit he had on was $3,500 plus. So he's walking faster than I am now. So I'm racing to catch up with him, but we get him into Hugo Boss, $1,200 suit. Now, is he complaining? No, he's not. But if you didn't work this to give him that feeling, and then the feeling of having to put on his crimpline suit with the wide lapels and the wide legs and getting into that rough, horrible fabric, you've given him another lesson. Oh my God, I don't want this anymore. You know what I mean? You become like a psychologist. You're working in their, their, I don't know. It's just, you've got to get into their psyche and then you've got to change it because that's what they want. They want the change, but they don't know how it's going to happen. They're worried. He's thinking of the mortgage and the kids at private school. But once I got the wife involved and she laughed and laughed and said, thank God somebody's going to take him off my hands, you have carte blanche to do whatever. And of course, that guy did get his promotion. In fact, his career never looked back. And 3 months later, and this was the cream on the cake, 3 months later, I was in North Sydney and I heard this loud whistle. You know, he was a funny guy. And he did this pirouette in the middle island between the traffic. And I looked at him and he just went like that, you know, and he said, what do you think? He'd been back to Giorgio Armani. Hello.
Oh.
You don't know where this is going, girls. You need to be working with men. If you want to work with men, then for God's sake, go for it. Because it's fun, it's great. It's 50% of your potential market. And I'm wondering, you know, okay, look, sometimes, you know, some women don't want to work with men. That's fine. But at least know why you don't want to work with men. And if you thought about it and you would like to, do something about it.
I've just got a couple more questions here. Is there a personality quiz like the female quiz to determine men's personality styles? The question was, is there a personality quiz for men as there is for women? I don't use one. There may be one out there. I don't use one because guys don't, in my experience, guys don't want to do quizzes, all that sort of stuff. They want you to tell them. But I think that Pinterest is a great way to go. You'll get an idea from their style, personality, from their wardrobe, and just talking to them about the words and the messages that they want to do. Yes, there are definite styles. And similar-ish to the women. Yeah, personality quiz, no, I don't do anything like that with the guys. And then hair facial features. Do their facial features determine their accessory style? So curvy, angular, yes, yes. So that's in that respect, that's very similar to the women's style. They want results, they want quickly, they don't want nothing too airy fairy. They're very happy if you say, pop this on, and they might be surprised and go, oh, I wouldn't have tried that on, I actually really like it. And that's where I will say, this works for you because blah, blah.
There was one client I did have, and he did push back a lot, and I just knew that he wasn't really pushing back. He was testing me, and I had to always give him the reason why, you know. And Suzanne, you're absolutely right that giving them, you know, I want you to put this on because, and the reason why, and you give them another reason why. So you give them something extra over and above that, and then you link it back to something that how they want to look, how they want to come across, you know. So you link it back to their words. So this particular client, I took him into Hugo Boss. I actually like Hugo Boss because it is a good mid-range. And this particular suit was a navy suit. He'd never had a navy suit before. He ran his own big recruitment company, sold it for a lot of money later on, but he'd never worn navy, so it got him into navy. But this navy had a lime green stripe, and one stripe was thin, the other one was bold, the next one was thin, the next one was bold. And his color direction would have been more to like a cool deep. And I said, look, I'd like you to try this. He said, oh, no. He said, I was wondering if you'll pick that up. He said, no, I'm not going to try that on at all. I said, no, but look, could you just humor me? Because I actually haven't seen this suit on anyone, and I'd really love to see it. Just put it on. Won't take a moment. So in he goes, and he comes out. Now, this is when you know a man loves the way he looks, because he came out and his cheeks were a little bit pink. See, men look at themselves in the mirror, and if they like what they see, they get this sort of little bit of a rosy glow. Not us women, we jump around and we sort of, you know, do our little twists and everything. Men will sit back and totally admire themselves. And he came out of the dressing room and he said, I can't believe it, Evelyn, but you're right. He said, I have to have this suit. And, you know, these are the little magic moments that you just know you are meant to do this. Women will do one of two things. One, they'll either make their men look more attractive to other women or not. And the ones that don't want to, they don't care if he turns up in stubbies and, you know, singlets. They don't care. But the fact is, I always want my man to look good because he's my handbag and he's going to end up, you know, there's a reflection on me if he doesn't look good when we're going out together.
We're just about done, but there's just a couple more here. How would you, middle-aged female clients in my niche, however, I'm intrigued about working with male clients. How would you market to both at the same time? I don't market to both
No.
at the same time. They're just completely different markets. So I think if you were to try to market to both at the same time, you may not end up successfully marketing to either.
That's right. Yeah.
Does that make sense? So I'd be doing separate, and as I said, I don't really even market to my male clients because they come from other guys from corporate world, all the rest of it. I don't actually do very much marketing to my male clients at all. I market more to my female clients because, as we said earlier, they tend to maybe not want to share you as a resource. They want to keep you as their best secret. So I need to be marketing more for female clients, whereas my male clients, they share the love. I don't know if you feel the same, Yvonne?
No, you're right. And I must admit, I haven't. The only marketing that you might say is through either LinkedIn, where I have a lot of connections. Sometimes, you know, there are men that do, once they do the shopping and once they do the wardrobe, they're so fascinated by what you've got in your head, how you've been able to pick up on how they want to look, and they end up looking that way. They're so fascinated that sometimes they want to find out more, and that's when they start asking you the questions to get down to the nitty-gritties of how did you know that, and what, and how does that work. And once they know that, it's because sometimes they travel and they want to be able to pick up something overseas without worrying about whether they're getting it right or not. And so, yeah, you'll find some men don't want to know all the details. They want you to call them up every 3 to 6 months and just follow up that conversation, find out what else you want, how those shirts, are they still hanging in there? That suit that was nearly ready to go last time, it's probably time to go now, and you just need to get a replacement. So you're constantly going back and forth to those men, but some men just want to know the whole lot, and then they think, okay, I think I'm right now. And they'll only ring you when they're in trouble.
Here was, do you always do a colour and a style analysis before you go and do a wardrobe and shopping? I always do colour, because I think for exactly the reason that Evelyn said, that they need to know that if they go off on their own, why I've done what I've done. I don't necessarily always drape, particularly if I'm in town, and I do see a lot of my male clients in town. If I'm in their office, I don't go in with a mirror, drapes, all that sort of thing, because that's the thing that they do not want. But I do take the colour flow chart and I talk them through that whole process. And they love it because it's all theory. And they will often say, this whole thing is based, there's a theory behind it all. I say, there certainly is. So I will talk them through the process, and I pull all the swatches out and I show them as I go about it. I definitely always do colour because I need them to know that. Then we'll talk about styles, and I often find that style is easier done in a shop or in their wardrobe than it is just sitting talking to them.
It's after 11:15. Isn't it amazing when we get together and there is so much that to share. I was thinking next week, I thought we would cover about measuring, whether to measure or not, and the pros and cons of both, because I've done both, Suzanne's done both, and I'm sure some of you do measure and others of you who have trained with me don't measure. But I really want to give you my reasons why, if you're interested in that. And I've got a very special guest speaker. I'm so excited. I only met her this week. And she said that she'd be really willing to come on to do a webinar of an hour. And I'm not going to give you her name yet because we haven't set a date for her, but she's blown me out of the water. And just when you think you know everything, sometimes you learn something else. So I'm going to share her with you in the next few weeks. So that's a surprise coming up. So always keep on the Image Consultants United group. Check out to see what's happening next. We look forward to seeing you next time. Okay. Lovely to see you, girls. And thank you, Suzanne. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.